Okay, so welcome to our yin yoga practice tonight. I've kind of tailored this practice to this time of year, according to like Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine. So we're going to be targeting the meridians of the body, or the sun lines that tend to be the ones that are most likely to go out of balance this time of year. So I also took into consideration that we're moving kind of towards, I know it seems like so far away, but summer solstice is like a month or so away. So with the idea of bringing some balance into that transition that happens between spring and summer. We'll get started with a little centering in a moment, but as always in any yoga practice, just really listening to your bodies. I can't tell what's going on in your own body. So if a pose at all, if you feel any pain in a pose, then that means that you need to change something. Sometimes it's just modifying the pose. Sometimes it means completely coming out of a pose. If you have to do that, then it's okay to rest in like a child's pose or on your back or some comfortable pose that you know for your own body. But just really listening to that. And I'll talk more about that as we come into the yin practice. I also like to offer some readings while we're in some of the yin poses. And tonight I'm going to be reading a little bit from this book written by Prem Sadashivananda, Empower Your Life. So I'm going to just be reading a few pieces from that because we'll also be following this class with our spring Yoga Nidra. So some of what we're doing today is actually preparing our bodies to also be in a more receptive place for the Yoga Nidra after this class. So starting with a little centering, we just want to feel the base of our body reaching down. And then you can sit either cross-legged or with legs out in front of you. Another option is to sit in hero's pose, where you can take a block if you want even to sit up on and sit in a kneeling position. But finding a position that feels comfortable for you to sit in for a few moments. And I like to sit on the edge of a folded blanket just to give a little more boost to my pelvis and spine, allowing my legs to then relax a little bit more. And just pushing down your legs into the floor a little bit more. Feel the tailbone just reaching down as well. And then out of that foundation and that stable place, you should feel the spine naturally wanting to lift and lengthen. Allow your shoulders to relax away from the ears, and the crown of the head reaching up to the ceiling, the sky. Your hands can rest on your thighs, palms can be up or down. And just close your eyes and take in a nice deep breath. And go ahead and open your mouth and exhale, release any sound. Good. And then continuing to breathe in through your nose, inviting your breath down into your belly, into your abdomen. And then exhaling from the belly and the abdomen back up and out through your nose. And as you sit with this breath, sometimes in the beginning, especially if we've had a busy day, that breath can feel a little more difficult at first. Just keep allowing that breath to flow a little deeper with each inhale, a little higher up into the upper part of the chest, and then just relaxing on that exhale, but keeping that spine long, shoulders relaxed. Beginning to move with a little more awareness into our three-part yogic breath, our Dirga breath. So as we breathe in, we're drawing the breath downward into the abdomen and the belly, and then filling the rib cage area, and then the collarbones area. And then exhaling from the belly and the rib cage and the collarbones. Some of you may have reversed the order as you inhale or exhale, but just finding that three-part flow of breath. flowing in and out and softening. And then as we continue sitting quietly with our breath, I'm going to invite you to just stay in a more kind of a yin meditation state where we're not trying to close off the thoughts as they come into the mind, but we're honoring the receptivity. And so as thoughts come into the mind, we might actually follow them for a moment and see where they take us. It's okay to also have a sense of the sounds that you may hear around you or outside of the room that you're in, and just following those for a moment. Still continuing with this 3-part breath. Maybe you even notice the sensations. Maybe your room is a little cool or a little warm. Feeling even the touch of the fabric against your skin. And just staying with this place of receptivity, of allowing, but also of a place of letting go. So softening within that framework and surrendering in to the breath and surrendering to what arises and what comes up. And then gently bringing your awareness back into this moment on your mat. A lengthening through the spine again if you started to round. Bringing the hands to your heart center, letting the thumbs gently press into your sternum, into your breastbone. I like to start class with one Om. But before we do that, go ahead and take in a nice long, deep inhale. And another one of those cleansing exhales through the mouth. And then we'll inhale for one Om. And then releasing the hands. Let's just take our hands behind us. Your fingers can point in towards you. If your legs out straight, just bend your knees or take them out of the cross-legged position. Feet wider than hips, and just let your knees rock side to side. Now, as we go through our yin practice tonight, you may choose to honor checking in with your breath and using your breath in your postures. But it's not necessary to focus so much on your breath and your yin. What I want you to have awareness of is if you're in a yin posture and you're finding that you have to breathe hard to be in that pose or really breathe through something, then you want to make sure that you're not in the pose too deeply. Sometimes that means that you need to back off a little bit. So we'll come into our first pose in just a moment, but I want to just go over real quickly the three principles of yin that I was taught. I studied with Josh Summers, who studied with Bernie Clark. And the very first thing you want us to be mindful of every time we come into a pose is there's always a target area in the body, and I'll talk about those as we come into the poses. But just honoring your edge of your pose. We're not looking to go to our deepest edge right away. So coming to your soft edge where you begin to feel sensation and pausing there. You can breathe, you can just relax into the pose. And then as that area, that target area starts to release and let go, then that's the cue from your body inviting you to come in a little bit deeper. The second principle is relaxing the muscles. So let's say the target area was my low back. So I'm feeling the sensation there. I'm keeping that sensation at the lower end of the spectrum. And then I'm honoring the body and relaxing the muscles in that area. So sometimes the breath comes in to help there as well. Just make sure you're not having to breathe too heavy to be in the pose. And then third, it's staying relatively still in the poses. So we're trying to come to a place of stillness in the poses. Tonight, we will be holding the poses anywhere between 2 to 4 minutes. Each. And we have some that are double-sided, of course. So the first pose we're actually going to come into tonight is tadpole. And from tadpole, we may move into frog as well. So in tadpole, I like to take my blanket on my mat and turn it the wide way so that I have a little cushion under my knees. You may like to have a bolster for tadpole, but you're just going to take your knees out wide. Keep your toes in toward each other, but you can play with how close, whether the toes touch or you have a little space there, that's up to you. And then you're just going to stretch your torso forward over a bolster, or you may be able to come onto the floor. If you're on the floor, you can have the crown of the forehead on the floor, and the arms can just rest with the forearms on the floor. But we want to spread the knees wide enough that we begin to feel a sensation in the inner thigh, in the groin area. So we're looking for a mild sensation here. And we're just going to come to that beginning of that first edge and just pause here. And see if you can soften those muscles in that inner thigh area. Now, another thing with our yin poses is that it can be a level of intensity that doesn't have to do with anything to do with the amount of sensation we feel in that area. Sometimes there's a lot of emotional intensity that comes with these poses. So that's where you may want to breathe to help move through that emotion, but just honoring the emotion, being with that, watching it, and then also having that piece of surrender and letting go. I do feel like this springtime we can have, and this time of year, there's a lot going on, we can have some really intense emotions that come up. So be mindful. We're actually targeting the liver meridian here, and that one can bring up a lot of anger. So just be mindful. It's okay to feel those emotions, to just be with those emotions. And if you find that even in the pose, the intensity in the inner thighs, where we're feeling the sensation, is too much, then maybe you need to bring your knees in a little closer. Sometimes lifting the hips a little higher will decrease that sensation as well. So from here, you can choose to stay here for a few more moments in tadpole. If you want to begin to move into frog, you're going to slide your feet wider apart. You can lift the hips a little higher if you need to here. And you may begin to turn your toes out toward the side. That is going to intensify this pose. So be mindful again of not going to a deep intensity here. And again, you can draw the knees in closer toward each other. You can lift the hips up higher. You can just rest on your bolster or your forearms. And again, if you find the intensity of the pose to decrease, that's your invitation from your body to come in a little bit deeper by either lowering the hips or taking the knees a little wider in this pose. Just a few more moments in this pose. And then gently lifting the hips a little bit higher, bringing the toes in toward each other, and just bringing those knees in right together, and then just rounding over the knees in a more traditional child's pose, just for a few breaths. You can even rock your hips a little bit side to side here, just releasing the back and the hips. Just gonna slide our hands under our shoulders and lift the torso back up. So the next pose we're gonna come into is revolved child's pose. So the other thing that I wanna just remind you of is when we're in our regular yoga classes, our poses have a certain form. When we come into our yin poses are not supposed to look at all like our other poses. So don't try to mimic those. And sometimes we have to rewrite even our muscle memory in our body so that we're not copying our yang poses from our regular class. So as you come into this pose, take your knees a little wide. You can start with your hips up. Your toes will be in toward each other. And some of you may want to have a bolster for this one, but we'll just first start by taking the left hand with palm up, and we're going to come onto the left shoulder and the left side of the head. So you're in this revolved wide knee child's pose. So let the knee slide out a little wider again. Playing with that targeting of the inner thighs. But in this pose, we're also targeting that outer edge of that left shoulder. And then we're going to take the right arm up if you want, and you can hook your thumb into your left waistband. And just let that right arm just kind of roll open here a little bit. So you may also feel some sensation in that right shoulder, maybe in the front of it. Sometimes you'll feel it even in the shoulder blade region that's in closer to the spine. So again, feeling sensation depending on where the tightness is in your body. You may feel it in even through the middle of the upper spine. And just settling in here, being mindful that you may actually feel more than one target area in this pose. Focusing on the one that feels the most intense to begin with and honoring that one. And again, not pushing to your deepest edge. Staying mindfully on the softer side of that edge. As these areas let go and open, then going a little bit deeper, rotating a little more open, pushing that left arm down into the floor a little more, maybe rotating open a little more. If this feels awkward on your head and neck, you can shift your hips forward or back, finding a different resting place. Just staying for a few moments on this side. To also decrease intensity, if you begin to feel the intensity increase, which sometimes will also happen in a pose rather than decreasing, you can also rotate to face the floor a little bit more. That may change the intensity for you. But just honoring where your body is at here. Softening into these poses, relaxing the muscles. And finding that stillness. You can begin to rotate toward the floor. Just slide that right hand down to the floor. Take that hand and push into the floor to lift the torso back up. So we'll go to the opposite side. The right hand with palm up is going to go under the left, coming onto your right shoulder, right side of the head. Take the left hand up. You can hook that thumb into your right waistband and let that arm just settle. Continuing to stay there for a few more moments. Listen to your body and either backing off if you need to a little bit or going in a little bit deeper. I'm going to start to read to you from chapter 10 of Prem's book. He's talking about the power of the subconscious mind. And I thought this was so relevant as we're beginning to prepare to receive Yoga Nidra soon, but it's also relevant even if you're not going to be doing Yoga Nidra. I think with this time in our lives when we've been having to quarantine and change some of our life patterns, that it's also a time of introspection and things that come up for us, and looking at those things and deciding how we're going to move forward. So this seemed really relevant right now. So he begins this chapter by saying, to gain complete mastery over our thought processes, we must understand three important aspects of our mental activities: the subconscious mind, the will, and the imagination. We have infinite riches within our reach. If we know how to access this wealth, we can live a meaningful, joyous, and abundant life. Our subconscious mind holds the solution to many of our problems. It is molded moment by moment by incoming impressions and by the quality of our thought. When life and thoughts are harmonized, we find great support in the subconscious mind. The inner creates the outer. The world within creates the world without. So go ahead and take your left hand, just let it slide to the floor under the left shoulder and allow that to push into the floor. Walk your hands back towards you. And take your knees slowly in toward each other. And then just come up to a table position for a moment. Knees hip width, hands shoulder width. We'll move just through a few cat-cows here. Just letting the body process that. You can play with inhaling, lifting the head and the tailbone. Move slowly here. Exhaling, head and tailbone release to the floor. Know that when we come out of these yin poses, our body may feel a little some more stiff, almost as if we aged while we were in the pose. And that's a sign that we're doing the pose well. Okay. So we're going to come onto our stomachs for the next pose. So stretching your legs this time out long in back of you. You're going to set up for Garudasana, or eagle arms, on the floor here. So there's a few variations of this. Just make sure you have a little room for your arms. With your arms in front of you, your legs outstretched long, just let your legs relax. You're going to take your right arm over to the left side of your mat, and then take the left arm under the right over to the right side of the mat. So your arms are crossed, your right arm is on top. And you can stay here and just nestle your head or your chin on your arms. This may be enough of an opening in your shoulders. So shoulders are an area that can be very sensitive. So be very mindful in this pose of not pushing your edge very far. So staying either here, if this feels like enough. You may feel this in your armpits. You may feel this in the outer edge of your shoulder blades. You may feel this in the upper part of your shoulder blade. You may feel this in toward the spine and the inner edge of your shoulder blade. If you want to, you can bend the elbows and either take the backs of the hands together or the palms, or just leave them. They don't even have to touch here. And just let your head rest. Relax the low back, relax the hips, relax the buttocks. If this doesn't feel like much sensation still in your shoulders, you can begin to move the forearms away from you. That will increase the sensation. So again, be very mindful. We're not going to hold these shoulder bends more than about 2 minutes each, because the shoulders are very vulnerable. Noticing where you're at in your pose, whether your body wants to go a little deeper or if it needs to back off or just stay where you're at. And then if you have your arms in full eagle arms, very slowly letting go of the palms. And then drawing the left hand back towards the left shoulder and the right hand to the right shoulder. Just turn your head on the floor to look to the right and just pause here for a moment. You end up rocking your hips back and forth. Release the low back a little bit. Good. And then just lifting the torso back up a little more. I'm going to take that left hand again over to the right side. But this time the right arm is going to go under the left arm as it reaches over to the left. So your arms are crossed again and the left arm is on top. So wiggle your hips side to side, relax the back there. Your legs can be, your feet can be apart or more close together, just finding a good resting spot there. And again, staying here and know that each side of the body is so different that one side you may be able to bring the arms into full eagle arms. And then one side you may not, and that's okay. So whichever you choose, if you keep your arms crossed or bring them up into eagle arms, either backs of hands together or palms, stretch the elbows out away from you to increase the intensity and stretch the forearms away from you. Find a place to rest your head and just let go and just be with what you experience here. I'm just going to read a little more from Prem's book. So remember, he says, the inner creates the outer and the world within creates the world without. He says, examples of how we have encroached on and impeded the protective work of our instincts includes eating when we are not hungry, drinking water when we are not thirsty, not resisting when we are tired, dressing inadequately when it's cold. Nature is quiet in the early morning hours, but we have become restless and are active at that time. In the evening, when we begin to yawn, this is a signal for Mother Nature to sleep, but most of us stay awake. With the help of the subconscious mind, we can change our negative or not so healthy patterns of behavior. Just by having some more awareness around these signals and these signs. Our subconscious mind is very sensitive to our conscious thoughts. It interprets our world literally. It operates without reasoning. Just taking a few more moments here, just checking in with your shoulders where they're at on this side. Just watching the thoughts and the emotions that arise from this experience while we're here in our yin practice. And then slowly sliding the left hand back over to the left shoulder and the right hand over toward the right shoulder, and turn your head to the left and just rest in your left side of your head for a moment. Rock your hips a little side to side
Take your legs out a little wider and bend your knees. Let your feet come off the floor and just rock your feet side to side, windshield wipering the legs back and forth. The next poses that we're going to come into are Sphinx and into Seal. So staying on your bellies, letting the legs stretch out long in back of you, and then also letting them relax. Now this is something that gets a little tricky because we're so used to coming into our pose and engaging our buttocks and our legs. But here you can let them relax. Coming up into Sphinx pose first, we do want the elbow somewhere underneath the shoulder so that we can support ourselves by our bone. The forearms are resting on the floor as well as the palms of the hands. And we're looking to target here the low back. So it will feel more like a compression in the low back. And if this is even too much of an intensity on your back, you can just rest your forehead on the floor, even turning your head to one side, and that may be enough sensation for you today. But if you can, coming into Sphinx pose here, you can let your shoulders strike out by your ears. Keep relaxing the buttocks, relax the low back. You can let your head hang if you want. That may bring a little more sensation into your upper back and your neck, but that sometimes feels really good if you've been sitting at a computer a lot. So resting here in Sphinx pose. And even here in our yin postures, we have some examples of the fluctuations of the mind that occur and happen. Sometimes we're in a pose and it feels really intense. We may have these thoughts of, oh, I just can't stand this. Why am I doing this? I'm gonna just quit this practice right now. And that's really normal to have experiences like that when we're in our yin. But that's an example of where we just want to witness that emotion and that experience. And you need to begin to discern between when it's really time to make a change in a pose because your body is giving you a message that something isn't right, like the signal of pain. Or whether that's just that monkey mind trying to stir itself up, drawing you out of your practice. And sometimes when we're on the edge of a transition of some sort or a transformation, we'll feel that resistance in the mind. And it will stir up more and try to convince us to not go there. So those are times when maybe we need to breathe a little more. Lean into the posture a little more and be with what we're feeling and let it pass. So some of you may feel that there's not much sensation here in Sphinx. So if you're feeling that way, you can begin to rise up into more of a seal. Listening to that low back. Again, I can't feel what's going on in your body. So the compression will be more intense if you lift the forearms up. It's less intense the further out you have the hands from the body. And you're kind of resting with the arms braced. You can let the shoulders still shrug up by your head. You can still let the head come forward. If you want to increase the intensity, walk the hands towards you a little bit more. But being very mindful of what you're experiencing in the body. Watching the fluctuations of the mind. So in Prem's book, he goes on to talk about more of the principles of the workings of the subconscious mind. And he says, all of our conscious thoughts descend into the subconscious, where they crystallize into character traits. habits, and beliefs. So I also know through being a massage therapist and body worker that these things also sit sometimes, if we haven't worked through them, in the tissues of the body, which we are targeting the connective tissue tonight. They can sit in the muscle. And so as we begin to open these areas, sometimes these things will rise to the surface from our subconscious for us to look at. And Prem goes on to say, once we have learned an action through the intellect, the subconscious mind takes over and performs the action automatically. Many of our daily activities, walking and driving, are examples of this. They're performed through the subconscious mind. All that we have seen, heard, enjoyed, tasted, read, and known from innumerable past lives, as well as our experiences from this life, are lodged in the subconscious mind in the form of impressions. A suggestion is similar to planting a seed. It is the act of putting an idea into our mind. It is a psychological process by which a thought or an idea is taken in, accepted, and put into effect. Within us lies a world that we barely know. Only occasionally are we aware that we have convictions, fears, beliefs, and opinions that have developed from a long process of programming and conditioning. Taking a few more moments here in either seal or sphinx or laying on your belly. Noticing where you're at, what you're feeling in your body. And then ever so gently and slowly, either walking the hands away from you if you're up. Take your right hand to the floor, palm down. Stack the left hand palm down on that one and turn your head so your right cheek rests on your back of your left hand. Bend the knees again. Take the knees out toward the edges of the mat. And rock the feet side to side, windshield wipering. Let the legs come down behind you. Slide the hands under your shoulders and press on back into child's pose. You can take your knees a little wider than hips, but not super wide. Big toes together, press the hips back toward the heels and rest in child's pose, forehead toward the floor. Remembering that we move slowly as we come out of these postures. And then sliding the hands under the shoulders and lifting the torso up. We're going to come once again into a table position, hands under shoulders, knees under hips. I'm going to transition right into a dragon pose from here. So this is where if you have a couple of blocks, You may want to have those handy. You may need them, you may not. Sliding the right foot forward, up in between the hands. And ideally, we do want to come to a point where our knee is somewhere over our ankle or our heel. The back knee is going to be back to a degree that feels comfortable for you. You can even take a folded blanket, an extra folded blanket, or fold your mat underneath that knee that can cushion it a little bit more. We're just going to stay with traditional dragon tonight. So you can actually stay with hands on either side of that forward foot. If you feel like you're not getting much sensation in your hips, we'll take them inside that foot, walk that foot out a little more to the right. So two places of sensation here in this pose. One is compression in the top of that right hip. And the other is that you're feeling that stress in the front of the left hip, opening the hip flexors on that left side, the connective tissue there up high in that hip joint. So if you're fine, you can just rest here with the support of your hands under your shoulders. If you are able to and you want to, you can go a little deeper by stacking. You can start with 2 blocks. You can start by 1 block, lowering to your forearms. But again, just remembering to honor what you're feeling in these hips. You're not going to your deepest edge right off the bat. I've learned over time the body responds so much better when we start with our softer edge, allowing those muscles to relax that are in the area that we're feeling the sensation. And then as that happens, inviting our body to go deeper. Some of you may also be able to bring your forearms right to the floor. Some of this, sometimes you'll feel the sensation even inside the right hip, inside the right thigh, settling in here. I'm going to just read a little bit more of this one section because I feel like it's so pertinent to understand. Some of you already know some of this from yoga philosophy as well, but how our beliefs sit in us, in our subconscious. Pram goes on to say that, he said, a suggestion is similar to planting a seed. It's the act of putting an idea into the mind. It's a psychological process by which a thought or idea is taken in, accepted, and put into effect. Within us lies a world we barely know. Only occasionally are we aware that we have convictions, fears, beliefs, and opinions that have developed from a long process of programming and conditioning. This deep inner molding rules our lives to a much greater extent than we could ever imagine. The suggestions and influences we receive during this life and previous lifetimes through our parents and ancestors are powerful sources that govern our lives. But remember, a suggestion has no power in and of itself. Its power manifests when that is accepted mentally. For suggestion to work, it has to be accepted by some part of our being. This is such a subtle process that it is rarely caught or analyzed by our intellect. Note well that our conscious mind has the power to reject a suggestion as well. So go ahead and take your hands to the floor. Lift the hips up a little higher. Shift those hips back a little bit more. Keeping your hands about shoulder width apart. We're just going to take that right leg. Oh yeah, move slowly and stretch it right out behind you. You can push into the ball of the foot behind you. Just releasing that leg. Good, and then coming back to table, we'll switch to dragon on the opposite side. So this time we're sliding that left foot up in between the hands. I even like to lift my back knee for a moment, stretch it back a little further, and then drop it onto my folded blanket. Again, remembering you can even fold the edge of your mat for your cushion for your knee. We do want to maintain somewhat the knee over the heel. And again, if hands on either side of that foot are enough of a sensation for you, looking now for compression in the top of the left hip and stress in front of the right hip, adjusting as you need to, or taking the hands inside that left foot, both of them, walking that foot over a little bit further, coming down to forearms on a block. You can use the high edge of the block or the long edge here, or coming to the floor. And know that each side of the body is so different. We hold things in different places. Things are not the same from right to left necessarily. So one side may feel completely different than the other. Honoring that in the body. Kind of a little bit of the story of the princess and the pea. We're looking for the place in our poses that feels just right. So if it doesn't feel just right yet, finding that spot where you feel just the right sensation. On the top of the left hip, maybe the inner left thigh, maybe even a little in the back of the left thigh, depending on what area we are tight in. And the front, of course, of the right hip. Softening into those places, relaxing the muscles, finding the stillness in that pose. Knowing that oftentimes what begins to arise in these poses are some of those things that are deep in our subconscious that we've tucked away. So Prem goes on further to say that all words, since they're a manifestation of thought, have power. It is essential to be aware of words that give us more confidence and strength, and of those that have a debilitating effect on us. And I love this next part. I remember a woman that I looked up to a lot during this one phase of my life that was a difficult time, and she started teaching me to look at the use of the words that would come out of my mouth, things like can't or supposed to, things like that. And so he talks about this here too, and he says, try to use expressions such as I can do it, my will is strong, and I can do absolute wonders. And make the words penetrate your inner being. Challenges will become easier. Negative words are often repeated unconsciously in our minds, and so escape the scrutiny of our gatekeeping intellect. Without our knowledge, such words play havoc within and without. Note the following negative expressions and their positive substitutions. So I'll read a few of these. Impossible replaced with everything is possible. I can't with I will make an effort. This is difficult with it will become easier if I give it a try. I can't help myself with I am in control of my life moment by moment if I remember that I have a choice. I am stuck or I am blocked with I will take the first step. I like this one a lot too. I would rather die than do this. Replace it with I would prefer not to do this. And another, you drive me crazy. Replace it with, you have upset my mind. And then going ahead and taking your hands again to the floor, lifting the hips, pressing them back, creating a little more space here to move. Oh, and feeling how stiff, or not really stiff, but kind of like how your joints feel like they've aged. Stretch that left leg out behind you, push into the ball of the foot, and just release that leg. Coming back to table position again. And if you have folded up your blanket, just go ahead and straighten that out for a moment. From table, we're going to come right into swan. We're going to do sitting swan tonight, though. So taking the right knee out past the right wrist. Now, this is one where you need to watch your knees. And if you feel any tweakiness in your knees, sometimes taking it out a little wider will relieve that. Sometimes bringing it into the center a little more will relieve that. Remember, these poses will not look like your regular yang poses. We're just going to slide and stretch the left leg out back behind you. With your knee torqued here, this right knee, though, let's flex our toes toward our shin just to help protect that knee a little bit more. And we're going to stay more upright here. So finding a place to rest on your hands. And again, letting the shoulders come up by the ears. So in this pose, there's a couple of places you may, again, feel this. Ideally, we're looking for sensation in the back of the right hip and the right buttocks area. But if that's not your tightest area, you may actually feel this in the front of that left hip still. Some of you may feel a little more of the compression in the low back, but that's not the most highest priority usually. But everybody's body is a little different. It's okay if you end up rocking over a little more to that right hip. Again, this will not look like your yang pose. So just relaxing here into this position on this side. So just a few other thoughts here as I read just a little more from Prem's book. He goes on to talk about not just watching the words that come out of our mouth that are maybe directed toward us, to ourselves, but also the words that come out of our mouths about anything in our world or directed towards other people that is in any way negative. And I think that this is something that, like, even now, I don't feel like most of the people I know are this way, but I do even catch it myself. Sometimes we have these moments of like being really frustrated with having to be quarantined or not understanding like why people hoarded toilet paper this time are quarantining and maybe even making some judgments around that. But instead, just trying to soften around that and rephrase how we're thinking about those things. And he even says, if you hear frequent complaints from others, such as the economy is really bad and life is so tough and similar, you can protect your subconscious mind by not reacting, neither agreeing nor disagreeing, just staying quiet. If not, your subconscious mind will be influenced and absorb that negativity. Staying a few more moments here on this side, honoring what you're feeling here.
Then curling the back toes under that left foot, lift that knee up and shift the hips forward. And again, we're going to do the same thing where we're just going to stretch that right leg out behind us, push into the ball of the foot. And it's kind of fun here to also notice any other sensations that you feel. Sometimes you'll feel a little like movement of energy, feeling the flow of blood as it kind of rushes back again where it might have been a little compressed. You might feel some heat or some coolness. We shift and the energy flows a little differently. Come back to table. This time we're sliding the left knee up towards the left wrist, maybe out past that a little bit. The lower leg can come up as high as you want it to, or again, be mindful of that knee, bringing that foot closer to you instead. Whatever you choose, flex the left toes toward the shin just to help protect that knee. Sliding the right leg back behind you, stretching that long. If you want, you can come up onto fist here to give your wrist a break and just rest here in our sitting swan. Again, targeting the back of the left hip, the left buttocks area. Or maybe you're feeling this again still more in the front of the right hip. And again, some of you may even feel that in the low back too, still as that compression. So this next part that I'm going to read from Prem's book really relates to our practice of Yoga Nidra that we're going to come into a little bit later too, but it works through any time in your life that you want to practice this. He's talking about autosuggestion. And he says autosuggestion is when we give ourselves a suggestion or an affirmation. The main principle behind this practice is that the suggestions are to be given frequently in a relaxed manner and embraced with faith. When feeling accompanies autosuggestion, it becomes a powerful force, helping us to retrain, remold, and re-educate the subconscious mind, and enabling us to open ourselves up to a more harmonious and positive life. We can communicate indirectly with our subconscious mind by using autosuggestion. As we repeat a statement or an affirmation and pour our heart's feeling into it, our subconscious mind absorbs it and soon acts upon it. Since the subconscious mind does not reason, it does not question or doubt the nature of the suggestion. We can repeat autosuggestions aloud, whisper them, or repeat them mentally. We can also write them down on paper or listen to them. So one of the ways you can do this on your own and at home, he says, for autosuggestion to work, we need to be in a positive, relaxed state of mind. The mind needs to be in a soft, nurturing space. Then the subconscious mind becomes fertile soil for the seed of positive change to grow. Perfect for our springtime theme. You can assume a comfortable position and relax your body completely and let go of all thoughts, but the ones concerning your affirmations. Repeating your affirmations with a deep, relaxed, gentle, loving, and convincing voice over and over again, he says, for about 10 minutes every morning and evening. And again, remember, we want to feel that from the heart. Take your hands again, shoulder width apart. Curl the back toes under. Lift the hips forward and slowly slide that left leg out. Stretching that long, pressing into the ball of that foot.
And then just coming to a moment where we bring your knees to hip width apart, cross your legs behind you if you can, walk your hands towards you, and you're just gonna rock over to sit back. At this point, we're gonna come into dragonfly pose. So I like to sit on the edge of a folded blanket. If you want to turn sideways so that your legs are opened on the long edge of the mat, feel free. But stretching your legs out wide. Now, again, this is not going to mimic our usual yawn poses, so we don't need to take the legs super wide. We are looking for sensation on the inside of the thigh here. So letting your legs just relax here, just sink into your base for a moment. Settling in. So some of you may even feel like you need to engage your quadriceps. And in this pose, we can. If you engage them, you can feel that kneecap lift. That feels more stable for your body, then go ahead and do that. Just take your hands in front of you and you're just gonna walk them forward. If you have any back issues, you probably want to keep your spine long. And if it's okay for your body to round the spine, you can round the back and release the head and neck. But we're looking for that sensation in the inner thighs here. Sometimes as we come into this pose, there's a tendency for the legs to want to roll backwards. So just trying to keep them more neutral, keeping the knees upright, the toes more upright, engaging the quadriceps if you need to or it feels better for your body. There's also another option here. If you want to let go of the upper body a little bit more, you can take your bolster in the center or a couple of pillows. I even sometimes will turn my bolster up on its side and just rest over that bolster. But remember, we're looking for that soft edge, so not too deep in those inner thighs. And one way to decrease the intensity in this pose is to bring your legs in a little bit closer toward each other. Also engaging those quadriceps may decrease the intensity. But honoring where you're at, relaxing the muscles, and finding that stillness. Just another minute here on this side. So just one of the last thoughts I'm going to offer here as we take these last moments in dragonfly pose. Prem also goes on to talk about how sometimes we are looking for the solution to a puzzle. Maybe not so much that we are redefining negative aspects or positive aspects in the body. Of course, we can work with the affirmations to reverse negative thinking or negative behaviors or negative thoughts. We can also ask questions of our inner being, of our subconscious. So if there's an answer you've been struggling with, this is another way to access the answer. And so he says to give a command or make a request in the following manner. He says, my friend, subconscious mind, I want the solution to this riddle or problem very urgently tomorrow morning. Kindly do it quickly. Let your command be given in very clear terms, free of ambiguous words such as maybe or I hope. The answer may come the next morning, but sometimes it may be busy, in which case you will have to wait for some time. Just keep repeating the same request every day at the same time. There is a great transformative power in intention, a charged thought. The secret of success is to practice the method again and again. You are bound to succeed.
So again, just walking your hands back towards you. For this one, I like to lean back onto my hands. Fingers can point in and draw the legs in. You can even go ahead and point those toes, lift the hips off the ground, and just come into our reverse plank for a moment and just stretch. And then releasing the hips back down onto the floor. We come onto our backs. Just before we set up for Shavasana, I'm going to take our feet out to the edges of our mat. Keep your knees bent. Take your arms out off your shoulders at shoulder height or even a little higher. And just let your knees fall over to the right side for a moment. Just let them rest there. You can turn your head over to look at the left hand if you want, and just take a few breaths here in this little gentle twist. And then inhaling, lifting the knees back up through the center. The head can come up through the center. And letting the knees drop over to the left. You can turn your head to look at the right. And a few deep breaths here on the side. And then inhaling, drawing the head through the center, the knees up, hug the knees in, squeezing them in. And if it feels good for your body and you want to, go ahead and roll around on your sacrum, just massaging your sacrum. One direction and then the other. And then squeeze them in nice and tight. Curl your head up towards your knees, curling up like a little ball or a little seed. And then go ahead and release. Stretch the legs out long, taking them out toward the edges of your mat. Releasing the shoulder blades to rest underneath of you. Palms rolled up toward the ceiling, the sky. You can rock your head a little bit side to side. If you have an eye pillow and you want to put that over your eyes, feel free. If you want to put an extra blanket over you, feel free. Just taking a few moments to rest here in Shavasana, maybe even taking in a nice deep breath. And exhaling out. And just letting your entire body melt into the floor. Taking this moment to continue to relax into the floor. And while you rest in your Shavasana, I'm going to read to you a sweet little poem by a friend of a friend. And I can't remember her first name last now, but her last name is Burns. And she wrote this poem about her dog. And I just find it also so fitting for today. So continue to rest in Shavasana. This poem is called Tell Me a Secret. Jackman, my biggest dog, climbs onto my lap, wanting to be the only one for that moment. Tell me a secret, I whisper to this lanky brown dog. He kisses my cheek. That is common knowledge. I reply, come on, tell me a secret. All the world is good, he begins. It's just that so many do not know this about themselves or the other. He paused and pondered, his blocky head resting atop my heart. Continuing his thoughts, he concluded, we who know carry the burden to bring the lesson forward. When we offer love, perhaps they will notice the hunger for love that lives inside. Perhaps they will recognize the love they have to give. Deep brown eyes were now looking into my own. It's all about the love, was his final reply. I paused and pondered, my thoughts resting within my heart. You are a wise one, I said at last to Jackman, my biggest dog. That is common knowledge, he replied. Come on, you tell me a secret. And then allowing the body to begin to breathe a little deeper, inviting that breath a little bit deeper. If you have time and you want to stay longer in your Shavasana, feel free. Otherwise, beginning to invite some gentle movement into the body, wiggling fingers and toes. Stretching the arms overhead or hugging the knees in. And even rolling to your right side for just a few moments, for a few breaths. Pressing into your left hand to begin to guide your body up to a seated position. And just settling into, again, your cross-legged position. Excuse me. Or legs out in front. Letting that tailbone drop down, spine lengthen and lift, hands to heart. We're just going to close class with one Om again. So taking in a nice deep inhale and just a soft exhale through the mouth. Sorry. I'm going to take a drink of water to tickle my throat. And then taking in another inhale, we'll exhale for Om. Sorry. Namaste. Thank you guys so much.